The interview that never aired starts with a threat. 37 minutes in, Tom Hardy takes off his headphones, looks Joe Rogan dead in the eye and says, "If you run this, I will bury you." The scary part? The cameras are still rolling. The scarier part? Someone kept the file, and what you're about to hear is the reason it was never meant to see the light of day. This is the story of one studio, two men who built their careers on different flavors of toughness, and the hour where a podcast turned into a psychological street fight. Alright, folks, Joe's voice comes in, warm and easy. We got a fun one today. My guest is one of my favorite actors working right now. You know him from, 10 different movies where he looks like he could rip your head off with 2 fingers. Tom Hardy is here. There's a small scrape of chair legs, then that low, rough voice. "Cheers, mate," Tom says. "Thanks for having me." He sounds relaxed. Not performatively relaxed, the loose, half-slurred consonants of a man who can't decide if he's at a bar or in church. Joe chuckles. All right. We're doing this. Dude, I'm not gonna lie, people have been asking for you for years. I was like, I don't even know if he does talking. You're like a myth. Tom laughs, short and sharp. Yeah, well. Myth pays the bills, innit? The first 10 minutes play like any other episode. Joe leans on the hits, Bane, Warrior, that time Tom nearly choked out a stunt guy by accident. Tom tells a story about fighting in a pub car park when he was 17, how he broke his hand on someone's skull and lied to his mom about falling off a bike. The audience, the one out there in their cars and kitchens, would eat it up. Inside the room, though, the temperature is different. You can hear it in the pauses. Joe asks, "So are you as intense in real life as people say?" And there's a beat too long before Tom answers. "Nah," Tom says finally. "That's just what you lot like to buy." You lot? Audience. Press. Blokes with microphones, Tom adds, and something soft cracks underneath the joke. Joe laughs anyway, default reflex. "Look, man, I'm just a curious idiot asking questions." Tom inhales, slow. The mic picks up the faint whistle at the top of his breath. Yeah. Curiosity. Right. Joe pushes forward. But seriously, you've played some dark dudes. Do they stick with you? Do you take that home? Tom's chair squeaks. You lot always ask that. Like I'm haunted by pretend monsters. Nobody asks what sticks from this, he says, tapping something, maybe the headphones, maybe the table. From talking. From saying things you can't stuff back in your mouth after. Joe's tone stays light, but there's a hairline crack in it now. Well, that's kind of the point of long form, right? You say the real shit. People connect with it. Do they? Tom leans closer, his voice gets quieter, clearer. Or do they just clip it, meme it, and argue about it while they're on the toilet? A quick laugh track breathes through Joe's nose. I mean, yeah, there's that, too. But I think most people listen in good faith. Tom gives a sound that might be a laugh, might be a scoff. Good faith. Yeah. That's what they called it when they asked me to talk about addiction on telly. Good faith. Then they cut the part where I said I relapsed. Joe looks at him, you can hear it in the way he stops moving, in the small absence of mud clink. They cut that? Course they did, Tom says. Doesn't fit the arc. People like a neat redemption story. Junkie turns hero. Fade to black. No messy bits in the middle where he wants to drive into a wall for no reason. There's a silence here that isn't dead air. It's a held breath. Joe steps into it. We don't cut like that here, man. We leave it messy. Tom's laugh is dry. Do you? He lets that hang for a second, then changes the angle himself. So let me ask you something, Joe, Tom says. He shifts his weight. The chair gives that same little squeak, now a signature. You ever feel like you're poking at people's scars for sport? What do you mean? Well, Tom says. You bring in fighters, addicts, conspiracy nutters, people on the verge. You sit M down under these pretty lights, and you go, tell me everything. Bleed, but be interesting about it. And then you call it curiosity. Joe smiles. You can hear it, even if you can't see it. His voice rides a notch lower. I don't make anyone say anything they don't want to say, dude. They're grown adults. They know what this is. Do they, though? Tom asks softly. Or do they only know when it's too late? That's the first little jolt. The roller coaster clicks off the flat rail. Joe clears his throat. Okay, so let's be clear, you reached out to us. Or your people did. You wanted to be here. Tom doesn't deny it. Yeah, he says. I did. Why? There's that tiny whir from the AC, the hum of the neon. Tom takes his time. 'Cause I wanted to see what you'd ask, he says. See if you'd be any different with me. Different how? With a man who could actually hurt you, Tom says, almost gently. The silence this time is heavy. Someone shifts behind the glass. Joe breaks it with a chuckle that doesn't quite land. Well, we started with the pub fight story, so I don't know if that helps. Tom doesn't laugh. Yeah. You went straight for violence. That's your comfort zone, in it punches, mushrooms, aliens. Nothing you can't turn into a meme. You think that's all I do? Joe's voice tightens, just a degree. You listened to any of these? Like, really listened? That's the thing, Tom replies. I listened to all of them. Now it's Joe who pauses. Tom keeps going. The fighter who cried when you asked about his dad. The scientist who said she got rape threats after coming on. The comic who admitted he was suicidal and then joked about it so your fans wouldn't worry. He ticks them off like charges. I listened to all of it. And you know what I heard? What? Joe asks, quieter now. Men learning to talk like you, Tom says. Like if they say it into a microphone, it counts as healing. Joe leans into his mic. You think it doesn't? I think it counts as content, Tom says. Healing's messier. Boring. Doesn't trend. The midway twist lands not with a bang but with a reframe. Tom didn't come to survive Joe's questions. He came with his own. Joe exhales. So, what are we doing right now, then? Tom smiles, you can hear it in the warm drop of his tone. That's what I'm figuring out, mate. There's a clatter, brief metal on wood. Joe notices first. What's that? Tom taps something again. A tiny digital chirp answers. Backup, he says. Little recorder. Been rolling since we walked in. Behind the glass, a producer swears under his breath. The gain spikes for half a second. Joe's voice stays steady, but the edge is there now. You're recording your own version of this? Yeah, Tom says, easy. Thought you liked long form. Dude, we weren't planning on cutting this. Good, Tom replies. Then we won't have a problem, will we? For a moment, something like respect creeps into Joe's voice. You really don't trust anyone, huh? Tom answers with a shrug the mic barely catches. Trust got me clean. Distrust keeps me working. They both laugh at that, the first mutual sound in 20 minutes that doesn't feel like a feint. It's a brief downslope, a little breath on the ride. Joe tells a story about bombing on stage, about being terrified the first time anyone called him famous. Tom admits he still has dreams where he's back at drama school, forgotten all his lines, naked on stage. The tension loosens. For a moment, you could think this is where it settles. Two men, different accents, same fear of being found out. The clip that would go viral, Tom Hardy talks imposter syndrome. The thumbnail would be his face mid-laugh, Joe leaning in like a proud uncle. Then Joe reaches a little too far. So you mentioned relapse before, Joe says, careful but audible. You've talked about addiction before. Do you do you ever slip now? There's a sharp inhale. Tom goes very still. That wasn't on the list, he says. Joe blinks. There's no list, man. We're just talking. Tom's chair squeaks once. There is always a list. Things you expect me to say so they can clip it with sad music. Joe shakes his head. I'm not trying to ambush you. I'm asking because I think a lot of people who struggle with that stuff want to hear I'm perfect now, Tom cuts in. Because then they can be disappointed when I'm not. Joe's voice hardens, threads of steel in the warmth. Or maybe they want to know they're not alone. Tom laughs, and now there's no humor in it. If they want a sponsor, they can go to a meeting. If they want a freak show, they can come here. The words hang like smoke. Thick. Bitter. Joe's patience thins. You hear it in the way he stops saying dude. You think this is a freak show, he says. Tom doesn't back off. You put people in a ring with your questions. Then you call it just talking. And you walked into the ring, Joe replies. With your own camera. Your own narrative locked and loaded. You came here to win. Tom leans forward, the mic catches the faint scrape of his stubble as he moves. You don't invite fighters to lose, do you? You invite them to bleed. Joe's jaw tightens. Everybody bleeds, man. Including you. You're not special. That's the problem, Joe, Tom says quietly. Out there, I'm never allowed to be not special. Out there, I'm Tom Hardy, mad bastard, intense method guy. Here, I wondered if I could just be a bloke who's tired. His voice cracks on that last word. Just a hair. Barely. It's the closest thing to vulnerability the audio has given you so far. Joe senses it. He softens instinctively. Then be that. Be tired. Talk about that. Tom pulls back instantly, wall slamming back up. So you can sell Tom Hardy admits he's exhausted to advertisers? Joe flinches. Jesus, man. You really think I'm that cynical? I don't think, mate, Tom says. I watch. That's when it happens. A mug hits the table too hard. Liquid sloshes. Joe's voice, when it comes, is flatter than it's been all day. Okay, he says. Let me be brutally honest with you, Tom. Please. The word is taunting. You're sitting here, in my studio, on a show you asked to be on, Joe says. You rolled in with your own recorder, your own speech about power and exploitation. You came ready to call me the villain in your little monologue. But look at what you're doing. Enlighten me, Tom says softly. You're doing the exact same thing you accuse me of, Joe says. You're tearing me apart, Liv, because you know it'll play. You know people love watching the tough guy take a swing at the host. Tom's breath hitches. You think this is about likes? I think you're addicted to control, Joe says. Not booze. Not drugs. Control. You couldn't control your life back then, so now you control every frame anyone sees of you. Every question. Every answer. The air in the studio goes ice thin. That's supposed to be a diagnosis? Tom asks. His voice is low, dangerous. No, Joe says. It's an observation. From one control freak to another. Something scrapes. Headphones. The cushion on a mic arm. Then Tom's voice, unfiltered by condenser phone for the first time. If you run this, he says, I will bury you. He's not shouting. That's what makes it worse. It's the calm of a man who has already decided what to break. Behind the glass, the producer's hand hovers near the mute button. Someone mouths, don't. Joe, to his credit or his flaw, doesn't look away. You hear him shift his own chair, stand up, the leather stretching under his weight. You gonna hit me, Tom? He asks, oddly gentle. There's a heartbeat of silence where you can imagine any outcome. A fist. A walkout. A handshake. Tom laughs instead. One harsh burst. Nah, he says. You'd love that. Tom Hardy loses it on Joe Rogan. 10 million views by morning. So what's your plan? Joe asks. Scare me into cutting it? You already got your copy. That's right, Tom says. And mine won't have ads in the middle. Joe exhales, long. Then we're at an impasse. For once, Tom says, we agree. The producer can't take it anymore. His voice ghosts in from the booth, faint but there. Guys, maybe we take 5? Joe doesn't answer him. His eyes stay on Tom. This show works, Joe says quietly, when people are willing to be human. That's all I ever wanted from you. Not confessions. Just something real. Not the myth. Not the armor. Tom picks up his headphones again. For a second, it sounds like he's going to sit back down. Then he says, real doesn't live in your runtime, mate, and drops them on the table with a soft, final thud. The producer swears again. Joe nods once, like he expected it. All right, he says. Cut the feed. The on-air sign dies with a flick. The hum of the neon fades. What's left in the room is just the AC, the faint ring of adrenaline in everyone's ears, and a bad taste nobody can swallow. The official line, later, is that scheduling issues killed the episode. Didn't quite come together, the studio says. Maybe another time. There is no other time. But a month later, on a Wednesday night, a 37-minute audio file appears on a burner channel with no logo. Just the title, The Hardy Tape. No intro music. No sponsor reads. Just voices, raw and too close, two men circling each other in a room that suddenly feels very small. The internet does what it always does. It picks sides. Some hear a brave actor calling out a bully. Some hear a paranoid narcissist attacking a flawed but earnest host. Think pieces blossom like bruises. Is long-form conversation ethical? Tom Hardy and the performance of boundaries. Joe never publicly confirms if it's real. Tom never comments at all. The only proof is in the way you feel when the file ends, when Tom says, real doesn't live in your runtime, and the audio cuts so abruptly you check your phone to see if something broke. It didn't. That sharp little emptiness in your chest? That's the sound of recognizing you didn't click play for truth, or healing, or nuance. You clicked for the chance to hear someone bleed without having to clean anything up afterward.